Okay, guys. So, I was going to talk about the Batman eventually, right? I had already hinted at it in previous videos that, I was going to see the movie and, say something about it. But this is not exactly about that, although I will say it was pretty good. I won't say it was great because Robin Pattinson has been the most unninja like of Batman. But it was good. It was really good. It was a suspense thriller type movie. I like that. Um, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was mwah. Like she probably was the most comic book accurate Catwoman that I've seen. Um, Especially if you look at the Catwoman that tends towards the Frank Miller books or the more later versions of her now. But yeah, it was pretty good. It was well deserved because I was apprehensive because when it was first announced years ago that Robin Pattinson was going to play Batman, I'm like, oh god. And I posted a bunch of memes and made fun of him and the people who made the movie saying that we're gonna have a sparkling Batman. And it didn't help that during the pandemic, during 2020, then they said Robin Pattinson stopped working out for the movie. I'm like, oh god, so he's gonna look like a he's gonna look more like the Scarecrow. But it was pretty good. I mean, he still looks more like Nightwing to me than Batman, but overall, it was really good. Um, and yeah, so yeah, but I'm not here to talk about the Batman movie because I'm pretty sure everyone's had at least one or two reviews they've read or seen, stuff like that, right? So we're not doing that, right? Right. So what I am going to talk about is how people get wrong what who Batman is. Um, that is what his superpower is. I get so tired of hearing Batman's superpower is that he's rich. Yeah, that was kind of funny like 20 years ago. Now it's just tired and it's cliche. And again, as I've said before, most cliches on careful scrutiny tend to be wrong. And this is one of those. The variant of his superpower is that he's just rich. Is that his superpower is white privilege. Again, wrong, and I'm going to tackle both of those. And this applies to other superheroes as well, including Marvel, because whatever I say about Batman and DC comic superheroes, by extension, it extends to Marvel and to the other comic book companies as well, more or less, but definitely to Marvel because they like mirror they like mirror images of each other sometimes, sometimes intentionally so. But anyway, let's get this out the way. So, is Batman a superhero without being rich? Yes. Uh, there's been storylines where he's lost his wealth and he still was able to do what he does. Okay. And let's, that's, we've established that. So basically, without money, he's Daredevil. He just doesn't have the radar sense. Okay. But uh, getting that getting that out the way. So what happens if we take away his money? So there's two ways in which we can do that. So one is he never had wealth, and then the other is he had wealth and then it was taken away. So we already know from those storylines where his money was taken away what will happen. So he, like I said, he turns into Daredevil. He still has all his attributes. He's still the world's best martial artist. He's still the world's best detective. And technically, there's another guy who's the best detective, but he's not human and he's magical. He's a chimp. He's a chimpanzee detective. And that doesn't count. One, because yes, I am specious. He's not human, and two, he's magical. So that doesn't count. For as for all intents and purposes, Batman is the world's greatest detective. Okay. He's the world's best tactician and strategist. Okay. He's a master escape artist. He's second to Mr. Miracle himself. um, and he was taught, depending on the canon that you're reading, he was either taught by Zatanna's father or by Mr. Miracle. But either way, he's a master escape artist, second to Mr. Miracle himself. He's a master. Um, he's a master tracker. Uh, he's learned that. He he's a master ventriloquist. Okay. Um, Again, he's a ninja, unlike the Robert Pattinson version, so he does that pretty well. And when I talk about he's the best martial artist in the world, mind you, he's mastered 127 different martial art styles, empty hand styles, but he's also a master at projectile weapons. He's second only to Green Arrow himself, who's considered the best. Okay. And he has other attributes as well, but those those are enough just to say that without his wealth, he would do pretty well. Okay. So let's go. So let's take it to the base. Let's say he never acquired wealth in his life. So he was born of moderate means. What would he still possess? Well, he would still have his genius level intellect. Okay. Gen- uh, his intelligence is innate, and we can get into discussions over how much of intelligence is innate and how much of it is acquired. That's a different video, a different discussion. We can do that there. He also has a superior uh, physical skills, and those are innate. And again, we can get into how much of that is innate and how much of that was acquired. But again, he was born with a genius level intellect and superior physical skills. And there's a third thing, which is probably his closest to being his actual superpower, his indomitable, excuse me, his indomitable will. Okay. His indomitable will allowed him to swipe Green Lantern's ring from him because of his, through sheer willpower, he can wield a Green Lantern ring. Not to mention because he can inspire fear in criminals so greatly that he was able to get a ring from the bad guys as well. But that's a different story. I don't want to go into that. But um, yeah, so his indomitable will is his real superpower, and it goes to the whole philosophical conundrum with him versus his arch nemesis, the Joker. Um, can an unstoppable force move an immovable object? And con- conceptually, they're the same. Okay, an immovable object and an unstoppable force. So who's the unstoppable force? Who's the immovable object? It depends. Um, you might say that Batman is the immovable object and Joker's the unstoppable force, but uh, whatever. The point is that would be closest to being his superpower. So he would thrive in whatever environment he's in with those three attributes: a genius level intellect, superior physical skills, and indomitable willpower. All right, so let's throw that whole thing aside that his superpower is being rich. That's just patently false. Now, the variant to that is his superpower is white privilege. No, and yes, in different respects. Yes, he does have white privilege, and he's rich. But that kind of extends to almost every superhero, even the black ones, because by extension, they're using white privilege the way that black cops use the privilege of being a cop. So otherwise, I mean, because think about it, otherwise, a vigilante is just a criminal. So of course they're using some bit of white privilege, but because they are the quote unquote good guys, they're allowed to be vigilantes. And like I said, that sort of privilege extends to even the people of color superheroes as well. Like like I said, with law enforcement, the sort of privileges they have being tend, uh, usually because they're white officers, extends to their people of color officers as well. So is white privilege really his superpower? No, it's just a way of people taking a swipe at him who just either don't like him, and for some, and DC helps that too because they let these movies come out that make him quasi fascist. Batman versus Superman. Yeah, but when you paint him as quasi fascist, it's going to lead to stuff like, oh, his superpower is white male privilege, even though that's patently false. And like I said, the privilege that he shares is extended to almost all superheroes because unless they are actually people working for the government, then they're vigilantes. Okay, so both of those are false. If you want to look at what his superpower is, it's the fact that he has a genius level intellect. He's a person of just sheer willpower. Okay, and he has superior skills that whatever he will learn, he will master. So those are his superpowers. If you disagree, cool. Let's talk about it. If you want to disagree, but those are his superpowers, quote unquote. They're not super, but they damn near because saying you're an Olympiad level physique is saying a lot. Especially you can have Olympiad level skills in something, but not everything at once. But he's just to show that he's the peak of human performance. And like I said, some of that was acquired through his wealth, and he's allowed to get away with the things he do because of white privilege. But those aren't his superpowers. So if you're still saying that it's unoriginal and it's false, so try to think of something else to say bad about him. You can probably say he's also fascist or blah blah blah. All that stuff is false too, but I'm willing to hear it. All right, until then, we'll be moving on to maybe another superhero